A few months back, I made a video where I was talking about the state of collecting Ninjago minifigures in 2025, and honestly for the most part, I do think that is a very solid video and I recommend you do check it out. It highlights the issues with just trying to complete your Ninjago collection, and I do think it's a fairly accurate representation on how things are when it does come to the landscape. But honestly, since then, I have had even more of a nightmare, so I want to tell a story. So sit back and relax as I explain to you how collecting Ninjago minifigures in 2026 is still an absolute nightmare. And I'm going to be honest, even though there is a very small glimmer of hope, and I will explain what that is, it is still absolutely terrible, and it doesn't seem like the problem is going away. So I have a story to tell you about my quest to obtain all of the Spectral Ninja. I want you to cast your mind back to the summer wave of 2025. We were getting the Season 3 Part 2 sets, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, I wasn't really overly enthusiastic about the wave. I've always said that I am a minifigure collector over a set collector, but the thing is that I do own a very large handful of sets. I just don't buy every single set anymore. But the thing is that I just wasn't really enthusiastic about them. Sure, there were some decent ones, like Rogue's Mech Dragon and also Lloyd's Jet Mech, but I just really wasn't looking forward to this wave. But I did, of course, want the minifigures. I have gone out of my way to collect all of the unique variants of Ninjago minifigures, and I am very close to that goal. And of course, with the release of all of these new Ninja, the Forbidden 5, and the Spectral Dragonians, I just simply needed to get my hands on them. But my main priority will always be the Ninja team. And like always, when you're not buying sets and you need the minifigures, you naturally go towards sites like Bricklink. They are the best way to get your hands on Lego. But the thing is that like any other instance of new Lego minifigures, they were fairly expensive to get the Spectral Ninja. They were just a bit too much to personally justify, to the point where it would have been more viable to actually buy the sets. So I just simply decided to wait. The thing is that I still had other Ninja I needed to get at the same time. I actually never had my Storm collection finished by the time of the summer wave. I was mainly missing Kai, and I think I was also missing the Sora variant. So I just simply decided to take a step back and just wait a couple months and get it down the line. And this actually cuts us through to about November. I was just walking through a shop one day and I looked over to see the Ninjago magazine, and to my surprise, I actually saw Spectral Cole as the minifigure to be able to get. He was the full variant and also having a reveal blade, and to be perfectly honest, this was a steal. At the time, Cole was actually only in the Temple Bounty and the Ninja Combat Vehicle, and I believe he actually had a value of about £20 to £25 on Bricklink brand new, which is just a little too much unless it's something extremely rare for me. So I saw the opportunity and I took it for about a fifth of the price. But just like that, I had Spectral Cole, and I was extremely happy to finally have a Spectral Ninja, and it completely reinvigorated my mission to get all of the Spectral Ninja. Little did I know, he was the only one that truly made sense to me. I officially set my sight on the rest of the Ninja team, and how the best way it was going to be to actually obtain them, and all of them just really did bother me, because all of them had some sort of caveat to be able to get them in some sort of way that actually made sense. Kai was the easiest of the bunch. He was in a relatively cheap set, and he also did come out in the magazine as well. I just simply missed him. The thing is that it was still much easier to actually just buy the set that he came in. The set was $8.99, came with a Spectral Dragonian, and had those two bikes. The thing is that I would have probably have paid that just to get him on Bricklink. Of course, that is the aftermarket, and that's a whole nother argument, but the thing is that it was still more viable to actually buy a set. So I thought, why not? I will buy the set, I will get my hands on the entirety of it, because there were other benefits, such as also getting the Spectral Dragonian. It's just simply a kind of inconvenient thing at the same time though, because I just didn't really have anywhere to put these bikes. But the thing is that again, it just simply made sense, so why not? There we go, you got your bikes, you got your box, and there's your Kai added to the collection. Little did I know that getting my hands on Kai was basically easy mode for what was going to come next for me. The thing is that whilst he was relatively fine, the next up was actually Lloyd and Sora. They both came in mid-range sets, so I thought it would be relatively easy to just buy them brand new on Bricklink, and it wouldn't cost me not that much. But again, no! Because I was looking for these minifigures a few months on, it caused the actual sets themselves to go onto discount. So the cheapest way to get Lloyd and Sora, being the Rontu set, was actually going down in price. It was initially $40, but I believe at the time I was looking at it, it was just under $30. The thing is that is fair enough. I never actually was overly interested in the set, but the thing is that as the set price went down, the minifigures didn't. So it was cheaper to buy Rontu than to just buy them individually. So again, in similar vein to Kai, I thought, why not? Here is Rontu, here's the box, and here is Sora and Lloyd. This was the easiest way to get them because they were more expensive to get them individually. Of course, then there were further benefits, because I also got Zarked, which was another minifigure that I did need. Also Wildfire. And this is one of my new main issues when it does come to collecting Ninjago minifigures. The fact that it is more economically viable to buy entire sets of minifigures makes absolutely no sense to me. Why is it that an entire dragon is more viable than just the minifigures that come with it? Of course, you can attribute this specifically to sites like Bricklink, and that is a part of the problem. The thing is that these sites are very popular for buying minifigures, but the fact that it's still very expensive to get them is just why it's become such a nightmare. What if you don't have enough space for Rontu? What if you don't have enough space for any of these sets that you have to get just because you want the figures that come inside? Are you meant to just join the endless sea of people who try to sell off these sets with no minifigures? Because again, that just makes no sense. It just doesn't work, and people don't care for just the builds. People want those characters, but the problem is that people don't want the sets. And that's kind of the problem. But would you believe me if I said that that still wasn't even the start of the problem, because we had a couple of minifigures left to get. We had Nia, Zane, and Wu. And honestly, I was so shocked at how much it took to actually get my hands on these. These last minifigures all suffer from an issue that I mentioned in the first video, which is the case of exclusive minifigures. All of these were locked behind very high price sets, and it's the only way to be able to get your hands on them. And honestly, that just kind of blew my mind in every single way possible. The first one I decided to take a look at of these three was Wu. He came out in the Legend set, specifically the Guardian Dragon, and the Guardian Dragon was a very expensive set. But the thing is that Wu was also very expensive because of it. This minifigure immediately became the most expensive Wu to actually get your hands on. It is very close by the Season 11 Wu, but the thing is that this one just skyrocketed in every single sense. And honestly, that was kind of really interesting to see. But the thing is that it did lead to a very high average price. I believe as it currently stands with the video, it is between £40 to £50. And that is beyond me, and I honestly was really struggling to justify getting my hands on this minifigure. Luckily though, and this is something that I personally did, the fact is that the Guardian Dragon was also going on sale, and it actually came down a fair bit. I was able to get the Guardian Dragon for 100, and that is actually a fairly decent price, and it is worth just double of what the Wu alone is worth. So after much consideration, I decided to buy the Guardian Dragon, and that is fine. It's a really cool set, although fun fact, I haven't finished building it. The thing is that it's still just beyond me that I had to spend 100 to get my hands on a minifigure that was worth 50. And when you look at the set alone, you realize that this massive, beautiful looking dragon is only double the price of just a singular minifigure, which again goes back into the issue. Because that Wu is not worth half of what the set I bought it for was actually priced at. It is so crazy to me that it was honestly still kind of making more sense just to buy the whole thing. And that is just something I just never would have expected. And it's kind of the reason why I'm still dreading having to get my hands on that Kai that came in the Fire Mech. It's the fact that these minifigures are costing so much just because they came in that big set. The worst thing is that it's not even canon. And that's the thing that makes it worse to me, is the fact that we'll probably never see this design in the show. And I just spent all of that just for something that looks cool next to the other Spectral Ninja. And that is just what melts my mind the most. It's the fact that I had to do it just because I feel the need to complete it. And you could say that's a problem with me. And you could say it's not a problem with Lego, it's not a problem with the aftermarket. But it is. It's the fact that these minifigures are made for kids, and they're not meant to be able to be this difficult to get your hands on. I understand that it's in a set intended for adults, but at the end of the day, there are many kids out there that want a full Spectral collection, and they can't because of the price of the Wu. But there we go, there's your incomplete dragon that I still need to finish, and there's the Wu as well. And we are down to 2 more minifigures, and I've saved these 2 for last, because they were the 2 last that I did get, and also, it's kind of because it's the Temple Bounty. So let's finally talk about it. To finally get my hands on the rest of these Spectral Ninja, I had to get Nia and Zane. The problem is that both of their completed variants were completely exclusive to the Temple Bounty set. And in case you don't know, I really do not like the Temple Bounty. I think it's a really poor looking build. I think it just doesn't do anything better than any other bounty has done, and the minifigure selection is extremely poor at best. The only draw to the set is the fact that it does have the completed Nia and Zane. It's the only way to complete your collection. Other than that, it comes with an incomplete Wildfire, which don't get me started. It comes with Jay, which is very easy to get in other sets. It comes with Cole, which was fine to get it if you just wanted to skip the combat vehicle, but now again, because of the existence of the magazine, it's kind of moot. And Zarked. And, well, he's obviously in the Rontu set. So if you were going after a completed collection, you would have already have had him. So it's just not a good minifigure selection either, apart from the fact that it's basically required. But I was adamant to get my hands on them because I wanted to finish my set, and luckily enough, one thing that did come in clutch this time round was actually Pick-a-Brick. Pick-a-Brick actually put a whole load of new stuff onto their service, and one of them was the Dragon's Rising Spectral Armor piece, and that's pretty cool, and it actually did lead to a new option to get Nia. To get your hands on her, you would have had to have paid about £25 to £30 to get it brand new on Bricklink, and that is just a lot, and I was kind of hesitating on doing so, especially because of the whole thing with the Cole magazine. But the thing is that you did have the incomplete version of Nia without the armor piece for about £10 because it came in a 4+ set. And again, you're spending £10 on an incomplete minifigure, but that's kind of beside the point. And I was due a Pick-a-Brick order anyway. There was a ton of stuff on there that I needed to get. I had a lot of little gaps that I needed to fill out. So I chucked on the armor piece. It was only about £2, and it was just the easiest way to get my hands on it. So I then also bought the 4+ Nia. The thing is that still did cost me about £15 after shipping. So I spent overall, I would say about £17 to get my hands on Nia instead of about £30. So I did kind of do well on that. But it was still so much, and it was a whole thing, and it was about a month to actually do so. Which leads into the second new category of why it's a nightmare. Inconvenience. Of course, you could pay the extra price for Nia for the sake of convenience, but say you're on a tight budget and you need the Nia. So you have to get them separated just to be able to get it for at least a somewhat affordable price. And like I said, this is Pick-a-Brick we're talking about. I was waiting weeks to get my hand on this armor piece. I just had a no armor Nia for a very long time. But luckily in the end I did get my hands on it. And you could say that's just me complaining and nitpicking. But the thing is that it shouldn't have taken me a month just to complete Nia, just because I didn't want to spend a very ludicrous price on just the singular one. But there we have it. It's Nia. She is done. She's in the collection. And you may be wondering why I'm separating her from Zane. You may be thinking there was a way to get Zane as well in the same regard. Well, no, there really wasn't. Because I was left with one of the two reasons that you should have gotten the Temple Bounty, and also no desire to get the Temple Bounty. So I was just sat there staring at Zane, and I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I didn't actually buy him. He suffers from the same thing as Wu. He's not canon, and the fact that the two most expensive Spectral Ninja are not even canon is so crazy to me, and I was just not really looking forward to getting my hands on him, to the point where I was kind of deciding on whether or not I will, at least for a very long while. It was just going to remain an empty slot in my minifigure collection. But then I decided to make this video. I realized that I needed Zane to finally complete my collection and have my story ready for this video, and £30 later, here he is. I bought Zane, and I'm not happy about it. It's a cool minifigure, it has no crease marks, which blows my mind, but the thing is that I spent a lot of money on a minifigure that we will never see within the show. Of course, Zane just has a storm suit, and it looks like when it does come to Season 4, he's just going to go immediately to the Dragonus one. So we're just never going to see this design, and I had to spend a lot of money to get my hands on it, which is kind of just the problem. LEGO made a minifigure and made it exclusive and made it very difficult to obtain, and they're not even gonna do anything with the design, and I think that is the final problem. It's the fact that you have to spend a lot of money for the sake of completion for something that just simply doesn't have too much payoff. There's no attachment to the design. When I buy expensive minifigures like JDX, or when I buy Lloyd ZX for example, I spend more money on them because I have an attachment to the design. I have a reason to like the design, I have a reason to want it. it, but in this case, there's just no emotional connection to it. There's no reason to truly have it. It's just for the sake of completion. And that is the last reason why it's a nightmare. To complete your collection and have it look cohesive, you have to spend a lot of money on things that you probably just don't really care for. And because I have no attachment to the Zane, and because the Zane just doesn't exist in the show, I just don't care for the minifigure. It's a cool minifigure, but why would I care when I prefer the other ones, and also they were actually in the show? And with all of that said and done, I finally have all of my Spectral Ninja. I'm very happy to have had the complete set, and I'm very happy that they are on display now. But the thing is that it is just the ultimate point of the video. It is a nightmare that I had to spend so much money and spend literal months trying to get my hands on them. I spent about 200 overall, and I think that is it. I had to spend a lot of money to do it for just a singular wave of Ninja. It's not even considering the fact that if you're a new Ninjago fan, you have to do this about 35 times over. It's the fact that you have to spend this much money when people just simply don't have access to it. I did my best to find the most economically viable ways to actually get these Ninja, and I still spent that much, and it just shouldn't be the case. Without nostalgia baiting in any sort of sense, I do get reminded a lot of how it was just very easy to get these Ninja back in the earlier waves. You could think of a many deal of times when they actually did have the Ninja in very accessible ways, and luckily, it does seem to be that they are doing that this year. With 2026, there was actually the release of the Legacy set, and you could get all of the Ninja in a £35 set, and that is honestly one of the best things I've ever seen. If you haven't watched my review of that set, you should definitely do so, because I sing its praises very highly. A very solid build and all of the Ninja within one set. It is the perfect set, and it's the complete solution to every single problem. They were all in a viable set, in a cheap set, and easy to obtain, and that is the point. It is so possible to do, it's just LEGO simply don't choose to do it. Because that is the blip, that's the anomaly in all of this. I honestly thought there was some sort of hidden kind of stipulation behind the character display set, but it's not. It's just all of the Ninja ready to go. And that's so good. It was so good, and I'm so glad that people have a way to get a full set of Ninja Team for a good price. But again, it's just a blip. Because with the release of the 2026 Season 4 sets for Dragons Rising, the problem is persisting. And personally speaking, I haven't even tried. Because the Dragonus Ninja are all exclusive. They're all in one specific set, and I don't think there is much overlap. I believe Cole and Lloyd are in the same set in their full forms, but other than that, you have to buy basically every set in the wave to have a full set of Dragonus Ninja. Of course, I'm referring to specifically the fully completed version of the minifigure, which what most people want. And that's the thing, it's going to be the exact same thing all over again, like I went through with the Spectral Ninja, which just hurts. It's the fact that this problem is persisting when LEGO have proven that they could not have to do that in every single wave. And honestly, if anything is going to be taken away from this video, it's the fact that collecting Ninjago minifigures is still an absolute nightmare. It is still so difficult to do, and I feel bad for people who don't have access to the resources that I do to be able to get my hands on them. Honestly, it's just not really a stable environment, and I feel bad for people who aren't in the position that I am, because it just doesn't really make sense, and a lot of people want these characters. But honestly, it's just too difficult to get them in a lot of different ways. But just like that, that's my story about how I went through the torture of going through all of the Spectral Ninja and my obtainment of them. And remember a few things. That doesn't include the Forbidden 5, I'm still missing a few of those, I'm still missing some of the Spectral Dragonians, and I've done this for most of the Dragons Rising lines. Now, take care, thank you very much for watching, okay, bye!